What's happening, everybody? I'm here to talk about, this is Liberty Talk. I'm here to talk about the difference between a revolution, right? You always hear people talking about we need a revolution in this country. We actually don't. We need a restoration of constitutional Republican government in the country. Be very careful of people that tell you, hey, we need a revolution, we need this, we need that, we need to change government. No, we don't. Actually, our government functions perfectly fine. We do not need a change of government. We just need a restoration of constitutional Republican government. Because what has happened over the large period of time is that our government, which is a great foundation for liberty, right? Our government, which has never been tried before in the history of humanity, was created basically by geniuses. The founding fathers were geniuses. Now, I realize, especially you young people that might be watching this video, young people don't realize that our founding fathers were geniuses because they're not taught that in school. Be very careful of someone that says, we need a revolution. We don't need a revolution. Usually someone preaching revolution are communists, socialists, and we all know, if we've seen any of the videos on this channel, communism and socialism never, 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 never work, right? So, the federal government was never meant to become as large as it's become. And I think and I fear that how our government will collapse, how our country will collapse, will be because the federal government has become too expansive, too powerful. It's taken on too many roles, and we're going to eventually collapse because of that. What we need to start doing in order to have a great restoration of constitutional Republican government, we need to start rolling back the government. There used to be a meme that I liked, and it said, I think we should roll the government back to the 90s. And then it said back to the 1790s. I think that that's absolutely correct. All these social programs that people live off of now were never meant to be the government's responsibility. Social Security, do you actually know what Social Security is? It's a socialist movement, if you will. It's a socialist idea. FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was a socialist. People don't tell you that. The history books certainly don't tell you that because he's the darling of the Democrat Party, but he was a socialist. He also confiscated all the gold from the American people during, not from 1933 to about 1945. He confiscated gold, made it illegal for Americans to own gold, which went completely against the gold standard that most Americans had grown up under or previously had been aware of, the gold and silver standard. The 1913 Federal Reserve Act screwed up a lot of things. But in order to restore our Constitution to how it should actually be functioning, we definitely need to roll the federal government back. We need to get rid of a lot of government programs, government subsidies. A lot of people are going to be angry about this because people getting food stamps, people on, disability. I get that. I understand there are people in the country that need help. I understand that. And I'm not saying that we just cut that help off, away from them just right off the bat. What I'm saying is that help should come from the states. That should be the state's responsibility, not the federal government. Because, and a lot of people are going to be pissed off at me when I say this, but this is the truth. When you're taking subsidies from the federal government, who owns you? Who's big daddy? Who's daddy? Who's paying you? The federal government, right? So you're a serf to the federal government if you take government subsidies. And that's just the truth of the matter. The American people were never meant to live that way. The federal government was never meant to function that way. So, in order for us to really restore constitutional freedoms in the country, we have to start switching federal programs over to state programs. We have to give the states more rights, more authority, more power. And we have to start stripping away slowly power from the federal government. Once again, I am not saying we need to cut all these people's help off, all these people's aid off. I'm not saying that at all. I know people need help. I get it. And because all these generations have been brainwashed into believing they should get the government help, now they feel like they're owed something, like that they deserve it, like it's theirs, right? But in reality, the government was never meant to function in that manner, not the federal government. So, also, too, I think another thing that we need to do is, in order to really restore constitutional rights, we're going to have to get rid of a lot of federal police. The ATF, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, they need to be disbanded. They need to be done away with. There is no reason, legitimate reason, for them to even be a federal police organization. They accomplish nothing. And everything that they stand for, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, are all legal as far as I know. The FBI is also a huge problem. The FBI, we've seen multiple corrupt scandals from the FBI in the past. Just recently, the Joe Biden scandal, his son, they had evidence in their hands that Biden's son had committed a whole bunch of crimes. He was caught smoking crack. This was a video on the guy's laptop. Joe Biden's son was smoking crack. He slept with underage hookers. All these things are on video, yet the FBI, they let it go. They don't worry about it. The Clinton email scandal, where she deleted and got rid of millions, thousands of emails that said that she, could have potentially committed a crime. I'm not going to throw that allegation on her. I'm not saying that she did, but potentially she could have committed a crime. She got rid of all the emails. The FBI never did anything about it. They never even tried hard to look into it. So I really don't think the FBI has worked out very well. And keep in mind, a lot of people don't understand this about the FBI. The Federal Bureau of Investigation was never meant to be a long-term thing. It was a problem that was created for its time period. The FBI was actually meant to fight against people like John Dillinger. Not even really organized crime. Just random gangsters like John Dillinger, Babyface Nelson, and things like that. And then later the FBI started to fight organized crime. For a long time, the FBI refused to even admit that there was a mafia because J. Edgar Hoover was gay, and they had a picture of him with his male lover, the mafia did, so he would never admit that there was a mob. So the FBI didn't start fighting the mob until after J. Edgar Hoover had passed away. So, long story short, we have a lot of federal programs we need to cut back and to push back in order for us to really secure and restore constitutional Republican government. None of us in this generation, or in the generation that's coming up now, or the generation before us, has even really experienced true constitutional freedom the way our founding fathers entailed us and meant for us to experience. So I think it's a shame we haven't experienced that. But our government functions properly just fine if we can cut off the leeches of federalism away from the government. I think that we would be just fine. Our Constitution will function properly. It does function properly. We just need to get rid of some extra curricular activities that the federal government has brought about itself in the last 100 years. So, I think that it's going to be a glorious day when we actually get to experience liberty in the way that our founding fathers intended. So, be very cautious of anyone that talks about revolution. We don't need a revolution. We need a great restoration of constitutional Republican government. Long live liberty, long live the Republic, and death to the New World Order.